The Beast Brock Lesnar officially becomes part of Seth Rollins' Vision faction. This is absolutely mind-blowing, and if you're not losing your mind right now, then you clearly don't understand how insane and how dangerous this alliance is for the entire WWE roster. Brock Lesnar, the Beast incarnate, the man who has destroyed everyone in his path for 2 decades, just officially joined Seth Rollins' Vision faction, and what this means is that WWE just created the most unstoppable and most terrifying stable in wrestling history. If you think this is just another faction or just another partnership, you're dead wrong, because what I'm about to expose proves that Seth Rollins just assembled a group that will dominate WWE for years and destroy anyone foolish enough to stand in their way. Comment right now if you think Brock Lesnar joining the Visionaries makes them the most dangerous faction in WWE history, because the combination of Seth's intelligence, Brock's violence, and the sheer power this group now possesses is going to reshape the entire wrestling landscape. This isn't just about winning matches, this is about total domination, about creating a new era in WWE, and about Seth Rollins finally achieving his ultimate vision of controlling everything. The revolution just got a nuclear weapon. Let me break down exactly how this shocking alliance came together, because the journey to Brock Lesnar joining Seth's faction is filled with manipulation, strategy, and brilliant long-term planning that proves Seth Rollins is the smartest man in WWE. For months, Seth has been building his Vision faction, recruiting talented wrestlers, creating a unified philosophy, establishing dominance across multiple divisions. But something was missing. Seth needed a piece that would make the Visionaries truly unstoppable. That missing piece was raw power. Seth had strategy, skill, numbers, and coordination. What he didn't have was someone who could walk into any situation and simply destroy everything through sheer physical dominance. He needed a weapon of mass destruction. He needed the Beast. He needed Brock Lesnar. The seeds for this alliance were planted months ago in moments that seemed insignificant at the time but now reveal themselves as brilliant strategic planning. Remember when Seth cut that promo about respecting Brock's accomplishments despite their history? Remember when Brock surprisingly didn't attack Seth during a backstage confrontation? Remember when Paul Heyman kept mentioning that Brock was evaluating his options for the future? Here's a trivia question for the longtime fans: how many times have Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins faced each other in singles matches? Drop your answer below. All of those moments were building to this. Seth was playing the long game, planting seeds, showing Brock respect while simultaneously demonstrating what the Visionaries could accomplish as a unified force. Seth was making a case to Brock without making it obvious that he was recruiting him. Genius-level manipulation and strategy. The actual recruitment happened in a private meeting that took place 2 weeks ago. Seth, without any of his faction members present, met with Brock and Paul Heyman in a neutral location. What was said in that meeting has been kept tightly under wraps, but sources close to the situation report that Seth made Brock an offer he couldn't refuse. Seth's pitch was reportedly brilliant: Brock, you're the most dominant force in WWE history, but you're getting older. You're taking time off between appearances, and eventually, WWE is going to move on without you. But what if instead of fading away, you evolve? What if you join the Visionaries, become the enforcer of a movement, and extend your relevance for years while also securing your legacy as not just a destroyer, but as a builder of wrestling's future? The psychology of that pitch is masterful. Seth wasn't asking Brock to be subservient or to sacrifice his individual status. He was offering Brock a way to maintain his dominance while also being part of something bigger than himself. Seth was appealing to Brock's ego while also addressing his concerns about longevity and legacy. Brilliant. Paul Heyman, according to sources, was the key to making this deal work. Heyman has a relationship with both men, he's advocated for Brock for years and has worked with Seth extensively. Heyman reportedly told Brock, "This isn't about you bowing to Seth Rollins. This is about you and Seth creating something that will be remembered forever." Two of the greatest wrestlers of this generation, working together instead of against each other, could reshape WWE in their image. Drop a comment: do you think Brock Lesnar needs the Visionaries, or did Seth need Brock more? Who benefited more from this alliance? Let me know. The official announcement came on this week's Raw in the most dramatic fashion possible. The Visionaries were in the ring, Seth Rollins surrounded by his disciples, cutting a promo about their dominance and their vision for WWE's future. Seth talked about how the Visionaries were already the most elite group in wrestling, but that they were about to become untouchable. "There's one thing that separates good factions from legendary factions," Seth proclaimed. Power. Not just the power of numbers or skill or strategy, but raw, undeniable, devastating power. The kind of power that makes people afraid to even look at you wrong. The kind of power that ends careers and crushes dreams. The kind of power that can only come from one man. The crowd was buzzing, speculating about who Seth was talking about. And then Brock Lesnar's music hit. The explosion of shock and noise from that crowd was deafening. Brock Lesnar walked out, Paul Heyman by his side, both wearing modified versions of Seth's Visionaries gear, maintaining their individual identities while showing unity with the faction. Brock walked down that ramp with purpose. This wasn't the cocky, smirking Brock we're used to seeing. This was a focused Brock, a man who had made a strategic decision to align himself with Seth's movement. When Brock entered the ring, he and Seth stood face to face for a moment that felt loaded with history and significance. "Welcome to the Visionaries," Seth said, extending his hand. Brock shook it, but then pulled Seth in for an intense face-to-face moment where Brock made it clear he's joining this faction, but he's not subordinate to anyone. The message was clear: this is a partnership of equals, not Seth recruiting a soldier. Quick question: what year did Brock Lesnar first join WWE? Show me you know your beast incarnate history. Paul Heyman grabbed the microphone and delivered what might be the most important speech of his career. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you are witnessing is not just the addition of Brock Lesnar to the Visionaries. What you are witnessing is the birth of the most dominant force in professional wrestling history. You have Seth Rollins, the architect, the visionary, the revolutionary. And now you have Brock Lesnar, the conqueror, the beast, the most legitimate fighter in WWE history. Together, with the Visionaries as their army, these two men are unstoppable." Heyman continued, "For too long, WWE has been controlled by old guard thinking, by traditions that need to die, by a system that rewards mediocrity over excellence. Seth Rollins saw this and created the Visionaries to change it. And Brock Lesnar, recognizing greatness when he sees it, has decided to lend his considerable power to this revolution. Together, they will reshape WWE in their image. And God help anyone who stands in their way." The implications of Brock joining the Visionaries are staggering on multiple levels. First, the immediate tactical advantage: the Visionaries now have an enforcer who can beat anyone. If someone threatens the group, Brock destroys them. If someone challenges their dominance, Brock ends the conversation violently. Having Brock as backup makes the Visionaries essentially invincible. Second, the championship implications: with Brock and the Visionaries, every championship is now within reach. Want the WWE Championship? Brock wins it. Want the tag titles? Brock and another Visionary take them. Want to dominate multiple divisions simultaneously? Brock's presence makes that possible. The Visionaries went from being a dominant faction to being capable of holding all the gold. Third, the psychological warfare advantage: just knowing that Brock Lesnar might show up at any moment to destroy you changes how wrestlers approach feuds with the Visionaries. The fear factor alone gives Seth's group an advantage in every situation. Opponents will be tentative, cautious, always looking over their shoulders. Tell me in the comments, what championship should Brock Lesnar go after first as a member of the Visionaries? WWE title? Tag titles with Seth? Something else? The WWE locker room reaction has been reportedly one of terror mixed with disbelief. Wrestlers who were already wary of the Visionaries are now genuinely afraid because they know that going against this faction could mean facing Brock Lesnar. The power dynamic in WWE's backstage area just shifted massively in the Visionaries' favor. Top stars like Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and Drew McIntyre are reportedly in emergency meetings trying to figure out how to counter this threat. Do they form their own super faction? Do they recruit their own enforcer? Do they try to drive a wedge between Seth and Brock? There's no easy answer, and that's what makes this alliance so devastating for everyone else. The Bloodline's reaction is particularly interesting. Roman Reigns has been WWE's dominant force for years, but the Visionaries with Brock Lesnar might now be more powerful than the Bloodline. The inevitable collision between these two factions is going to be explosive and could define WWE's storyline direction for the next year. The business implications are massive. The Visionaries with Brock Lesnar attached will be featured heavily in WWE programming because their money. Merchandise sales will skyrocket. Premium live events featuring the Visionaries will draw huge numbers. This alliance makes WWE millions of dollars if booked correctly. The creative possibilities are endless. Imagine Seth's strategic mind combined with Brock's physical dominance planning attacks on opponents. Imagine the Visionaries using Brock as their ultimate weapon while Brock benefits from Seth's tactical brilliance. Imagine the dream matches this creates: Brock and Seth versus Roman and Cody, Brock defending Visionaries members in their matches. The possibilities are limitless. What's your dream match involving Brock Lesnar as part of the Visionaries? Give me your fantasy booking in the comments. The comparison to other legendary factions is inevitable. Is this better than the Shield? More dangerous than Evolution? More dominant than NWO? The argument can be made that the Visionaries with Brock Lesnar is the most complete faction ever assembled. They have strategy, Seth, power, Brock, numbers, other members, and advocacy, Paul Heyman. What weakness does this group even have? The potential for internal conflict is interesting. Can Seth's ego coexist with Brock's dominance? Will other Visionaries members resent Brock getting preferential treatment? Will Paul Heyman's divided loyalties create problems? These are questions that could lead to explosive storytelling down the line, but for now, the alliance seems solid. The historical significance of former rivals becoming allies adds depth to this storyline. Seth and Brock have hurt each other over the years. They've had brutal matches, bitter feuds, genuine animosity. For them to put that aside and work together shows maturity and evolution. It's character development that feels earned rather than forced. The veteran wrestler reactions have been fascinating. Legends are comparing this to when Hogan joined NWO or when Rock and Austin briefly teamed up. They're recognizing this as a potentially legendary moment that will be talked about for decades. The wrestling community as a whole understands that something special is happening. The social media reaction has been nuclear. #BeastVisionary has been trending worldwide. Fan art of Brock in Visionary's gear has flooded the internet. Video packages imagining dream matches and scenarios have gone viral. The WWE Universe is invested in this storyline in ways that modern wrestling rarely achieves. The mainstream media is starting to pay attention because Brock Lesnar joining any faction is news. Brock is one of the few wrestlers with legitimate mainstream name recognition, and his decision to join Seth's group is being covered by sports media and entertainment outlets. WWE is getting free publicity and mainstream attention from this alliance. Here's a controversial question: will Brock Lesnar eventually betray the Visionaries, or is this alliance going to last for years? Give me your prediction. The international fanbase is losing it over this announcement. Brock is a global star, and Seth has international appeal. The Visionaries with Brock now have crossover potential in markets where WWE is trying to grow. This faction could become the face of WWE's international expansion efforts. The pressure on WWE creative to deliver with this faction is immense. They've created something with massive potential, but it can also be squandered if not booked correctly. Every decision about the Visionaries from here on out will be scrutinized because fans have high expectations for what this group can accomplish. The potential opponents for this faction are fascinating to consider. Who can realistically challenge the Visionaries with Brock in their ranks? It would take a super faction of multiple main event stars working together. Maybe Roman's bloodline teams with Cody Rhodes and allies? Maybe WWE brings in outside reinforcements? The challenge of finding credible threats to the Visionaries is both a booking challenge and an opportunity. The legacy implications for both Seth and Brock are profound. Seth cements his status as a leader and visionary who built the most dominant faction in WWE history. Brock adds another layer to his legendary career by showing he can evolve beyond just being a solo destroyer. Both men's careers reach new heights through this alliance. One final question: if the Visionaries could recruit one more WWE superstar to join alongside Seth and Brock, who should it be? Give me your choice. Now I want to hear from you, the Wrestling Newsletter family. Tell me in the comments. Did you see Brock joining the Visionaries coming? Is this the most dangerous faction in WWE history? How long will this alliance last? Who can realistically defeat the Visionaries? What should be Brock's first major moment as a Visionary? Does this make Seth Rollins the most powerful man in WWE? Smash that like button if you think Brock Lesnar joining the Visionaries is game-changing. Destroy that like button if you're terrified of how dominant this faction is. We need maximum engagement on this historic moment. Subscribe to Wrestling Newsletter because we're covering every single moment of the Visionaries' dominance with Brock Lesnar. Every match, every attack, every championship victory. Share this video with every wrestling fan because Brock Lesnar officially joining Seth Rollins' Vision faction is wrestling history and everyone needs to understand what just happened. The Beast has joined the Visionaries. Seth Rollins has his ultimate weapon. WWE has its most dominant faction ever. The revolution is complete, and the entire roster is in danger. This is the beginning of a new era in WWE, and nobody is safe from the Visionaries' vision of total domination. The wrestling world just changed forever, and we're all witnessing the birth of something legendary.